see eye to eye, essentially, and help others.
So, people often assume, it's the materially wealthy that need purpose, that get a kick out of, transforming others. God's wired us to all have purpose, to all want to make a difference and gain the value.
Welcome to the Conveying Stories podcast powered by Araujo Attorneys, a podcast where we delve into some interesting insights we glean from community leaders, business leaders, and some charitable organizations. In today's episode, we've got a very special guest, Mandy Pearson from the ReStory Foundation, previously known as the Bhambayi Foundation, right? Mandy, welcome to this podcast. Thank you so much for being our host today and taking some time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Mandy, why don't we start with a simple question on where did you grow up, and have you always been a Durban girl or?
So I grew up in Durban, but I spent a year after school. I was in Australia on Rotary Exchange, and then I was 3 years in Cambridge for a while doing postgrad, and then working around Europe for a while.
Okay.
So, but mostly Durban based.
Durban. So you're a Shark supporter?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now then we speak the same language. And growing up, what did you want to be? What was your aspiration?
So I wasn't that sure. I loved maths, passionate about maths, and passionate also about making a difference. When I look back, I see things in my life, though, that really kind of now I can see they were pointing me in the direction where I am now.
Okay.
I remember I was about 8 years old, and my mom had given me, I think it was about 30 cents in those days. We could buy a chocolate with 30 cents. And I'd gone into the cafe, which was the corner tea room. We used to call it that.
Yeah.
And I went to go buy a chocolate, so proud of myself. And there was an older gentleman, and the cashier, wanted to serve me first because I was the white person, and it just made me so angry. And from then that fire, just in terms of dignity, in terms of how people are seen, and I made sure the gentleman was served first. I remember older school days, I don't know what I told my parents, but they dropped me at the Pinetown Library. It was the only place, by then it was easing a little bit apartheid, and we could meet with people of different colour in the Pinetown Library. So I think I told them I was studying for a project and needed some books. Anyway, I'd meet people from Kwandangezi, some guys, and we'd talk about the future of South Africa, and we grappled with all that. So it kind of was this journey. And then, after school I did the commerce because, of the maths and that, and I think God had other plans. I had a scholarship for finance honours, and then someone phoned me from Small Business Development Corporation and said, we want you to run this small business project, start it and run it. Umlazi and Claremont and that. So I gave up the honours. That was an easy decision, and I started doing that. So that was before the elections, the 94 elections, different ones to now. And so they were sometimes there'd be tires burning and all sorts of things. And I'd go in my little city golf. I think I got my first cell phone then, actually, a little bit after that, but I didn't have cell phone at first.
Those big ones.
It was Makula. There was a big one there. And so it kind of, it was a journey of ins and outs, but like a bit of a patchwork blanket, but all coming together.
But always under the guidance of God. I love that. It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And then in 2007, the Springboks obviously won the World Cup for the second time.
Absolutely.
But what were some of that's sort of where ReStory Foundation found its roots. Tell us a bit about that.
So I ended up in the corporate world, actually, when I went overseas. And then when I came back, I was still in the corporate world, and then when my second child was born, she was really ill, and so I stopped that, started studying theology, actually, of all interesting things, and I really wanted to be involved back in development. My passion was there, my heart was there, and I was just praying about a place to be involved. You can't just drive in somewhere and say, I've come to, kind of journey with this community. And the lady who worked for me at the time told me on the 28th of February 2007 about these flash floods that had really impacted this community of Bhambayi. Never heard of it. And so off I went and met this lady, Lillian Makwatla. It's one of the most disadvantaged communities in Durban. Absolute amazing lady. And so we've journeyed together for 17 years. And so that was really, really the start of it. For the first 10 years, it was really relationship based. We had over 100 volunteers, but we didn't have any staff. So that when we first got staff, the people that we were able to get on board were those who'd been orphans and vulnerable children who'd been through our program.
Sure.
So it was really relationship based. So quite a journey.
Yeah. And so do you have a premises there? And that's,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So we've got a premises we operate from, and we've got over 300 on our orphans and vulnerable children on our program, their guardians. We've got unemployed young adults. We have a whole lot of, so it's quite a hub of activity.
Jeepers. And tell me, I read on your website, you say how we do things is as important as what we do. Tell me a bit more about that, because I love that quote there.
So even from the start, people always say you've got to have that one thing you focus on.
Yeah.
So ours was about empowering people to break the poverty cycles and really, especially marginalized young children and youth. But it was also as much about people and growing relationships where people from advantaged areas not realizing how they treated people who were more materially poor, and growing relationships across the color bar, across the race bar, color, across the economics, etc. And so it started off with eye to eye, the concept that grew out of eye to eye, where everyone's on the same level. So there's no giver or receiver. You all give to each other in different ways, and it's acknowledging that.
Yes.
And from that developed what we call our hope building model, HOPE, and that each stand for thing. The H is the honor, which is the eye to eye. And it's all about empowerment. It's all about enabling people to have agency, to be the change in the world, as opposed to coming in as the hero, focusing on weakness. It's all about how do you focus on strengths and igniting a community to transformation.
Yeah. Look, relationships are definitely the cornerstone to anything, or to everything in life. You can't move anything forward without relationships. So, which brings me to my next question on teams. Like, do you have one main leadership team, or do you have, how big is your team? Tell me a bit about your sort of team that helps you there.
So in terms of those that are employed, there are 13 of us, who are employed, but we have many volunteers, some people who are part-time, etc. And we have an incredible team. So the majority live within the community of Bhambayi. So it's wonderful, everyone's strengths and knowing the community, because that's where they live. Integrity for us is really important, and we've seen how it can creep in, where if you don't really know a community well, some things can happen, and your integrity can be questioned. So for us, that's vital, and so our staff being so much a part of the community. And
once again, those relationships, so those community leaders are in the community, so they have that accountability and that integrity, like you say.
We have a community board of advisors, so it's apolitical leaders in the community that are a board of advisors for us. We're part of all the community groups. So really grafted in. So
in recent times, I've always known it as the Bhambayi Project, and like I alluded to in the intro, it's recently changed to the ReStory Foundation. So just tell me a bit of, was it quite challenging changing names? Was there a lot of goodwill to the Bhambayi Project, and what was the reasoning behind changing?
Actually, we've been amazed how easy the transition has been. I mean, our guardians, awesome. They always talked from the beginning. They were like, ReStory, I'm going to ReStory, and these old gogos, and it's just been wonderful. They just took hold of it. Bhambayi Project, project makes it seem like it's very temporary, 17 years later. And as we've grown as an organization, our impact, we've done a lot of national things, and now in terms of inputting into other NPOs and various things, it doesn't make sense to have it geographically limited. And so that's the ReStory, and the name for us is just so fundamental to who we are, because it's about the story. It's about it's kind of new. So it's the new story, and foundation. It's just, there's such foundation in terms of our foundation in God, and in terms of transformation. So we love the name, but it's been wonderful to see how people have just transitioned so easily.
That's awesome. I love the name ReStory as well, because exactly that. It's a new beginning. It's a ReStory, and you've got different branches. It's like ReStory Lives, ReStory Community, and there's a couple. Just talk us through some of those. 6 of them.
So we have ReStory Lives, which is our 300, over 300 orphans and vulnerable children, and we have some on an intense program and some on just our general program, and we do everything from maths and literacy. We have life skills programs, young men's programs. We do a whole lot of programs with them, and with the guardians. We've just finished a trauma program, and it's just transformed them. So that's been amazing. Then we have ReStory Futures. We've got 14 children and youth on bursaries, tertiary and school. so at private schools, and also I work with unemployed young adults. So that's really exciting, and they do a lot of practical skills as well. Our Pagama course, 6-week Pagama course, is about to start. We've got our ReStory community, building, how do we build cleaner, safer and more united communities standing for good. And then on ReStory Justice, there's a lot to tell on that side. We've done a lot in terms of child protection nationally. And we're excited to see it getting traction. Child rape, child abuse is just horrendous in this country. It's a hidden pandemic people don't know about. So we do a lot in that regard. And then we've got our ReStory Giving, which is with NPOs, businesses, individual schools, really challenging people. And every donor that comes on the doors, challenging them how they give in a way that transforms, that gives dignity. So that's our ReStory. And then ReStory Research, because for us, we feel such an accountability in terms of giving. You're impacting lives. Like a pilot, you're taking people, people's lives in your hands as an organization. So how are we doing that? What is best practice globally? And actually, we're developing some things ourselves, which we're quite excited for the future, the possibility of impacting, how can we impact on a wider scale.
Sounds very exciting. I saw, on one of your videos on your website as well, regarding, child rape, the statistics are like 4 years old, and it's one of those things, definitely an area that the politicians can take note of.
Absolutely.
And have you had lots of dealings with, there's a march that you organized for the children to go to the Magistrates Court. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so that was one of our 7-year-olds had been raped at Knife Point. Terrible story. We had been involved in the arrest at our risk of our lives, getting the police. We were driving around, got the person arrested. Wow. 4 weeks later, he was out on bail of 1,500 rand. Our 7-year-old had to leave the area, leave her friends, everything. Anyway, and then he was seen around the community walking outside of his bail. We tried to get him rearrested. The police refused to come. All sorts of things. The community was too scared to put their name down because they have to give a name. Yes. And they said, no, the names are sold for 20 rand. So they wouldn't do that. Anyway, he attempted to rape another child. And so then they still didn't arrest him. So then we had the march, and the result was we actually got the rapist rearrested, and we got a magistrate removed from that court and put under investigation. And so it was dramatic. And getting the children, because someone said, we got something on social media saying, how can you have children involved in a child rape march? But that's their lived reality. Actually it's helping them to move from being a victim to a victor, that they're standing up.
Yes.
And after the march, one of the community leaders said, Bhambayi, we are the rubbish bin of society. That's us. Everyone views us as the rubbish bin. But now we've seen ourselves on TV standing up for good. We've seen ourselves bring about change. That's changed us. We know we can change the world for good. And I think that's the whole thing that we want to encourage, is this kind of agents of positive change. And that's, for me, was so exciting. So while there was trauma, those rapes, it's just awful.
That's terrible.
At the same time, we see good in our children standing up and bringing change.
And empowering them to actually just to change their mindset in terms of, even though things might be bad, there is a chance of something better coming,
We actually used to call them special stars, and we've changed the name to shining stars, because special stars kind of suggests I'm special, entitlement. Shining stars is a responsibility. So it doesn't matter what's happened to you in life, you've got a responsibility to impact lives.
No, it's unbelievable. I can just imagine it must have been quite hair-raising being involved in those arrests and stuff. So that's a major success story coming out of the ReStory Foundation. Are there any other major success stories that you would say that's sort of come out, like shining stars that have maybe, I don't know?
Yeah, there's so many I could talk about there. Last year we had 51 children never been in school. It's also quite a few 12-year-olds getting them into school, which was really phenomenal. We've got kids at Varsity. Qoliswa, she was one of our first ones when we started Maths Club, and we identified her. She went to a bursary in Andrews Seminary. She's third year civil engineering, doing so well. She got 95% for maths from matric.
That's your influence there, with the numbers.
But others, teaching at schools, one a lawyer. Just really exciting to see out of a community where well over 80% unemployed, and you just see this this transformation. But also, not for us, it's not just about them getting a job, it's how they're changing the world. how are they, so even our 5-year-olds saying, okay, how are they teaching the others? How are they helping the kids that come on board, the new ones? How are they journeying with them? Each one of us has a responsibility. And so for us, it's great.
Yeah, and it's creating that sort of positive, mentorship as well. That there's people see the growth and how they develop, and there's an engineering student and there's a lawyer, and that's amazing for the youngsters to look up to and say, well, that's what I want to be. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's almost like the whole Sia Khaleesi thing. Sia Khaleesi, grew up in very unfortunate and disadvantaged circumstances, but yet he's won 2 World Cups with the Springboks.
Yeah.
And it's just that similar story. Mapimpi, and though that all sort of aids in that whole growth mindset and just growing and developing. If I were to now say, I want to start a similar sort of foundation of sorts, what would your 5 top tips or 3 top tips be? If you can't,
I think, the first one would be relationships. If you're not honoring people in the community and hearing them, so it's all about journeying. As I say, 10 years we were doing a lot in that time, but we weren't this, large foundation. It was about hearing people and journeying with them. So I think that's the absolute starting point, end point, journey point, because you can get lost along the way and focused on funding or whatever as you grow. Relationships is the most important to honor the community. I think integrity is vital. You've got to really be grafted in. It comes from the relationships 100%. Because often you will have chances. My experiences in all the communities, all the disasters we've dealt with, we've really dealt with them in a very different way. But it's been about us we research it, etc. How do you make sure from integrity? And agency is a word. It's about being the change. So how do you, in every circumstance, look not to be the hero, but to make someone else the hero? And if an NPO goes into serve, I think that's so powerful. So for me, if you get those 3 right, and maybe I'd add on long-term focus instead of kind of, handouts, rescue, how are we doing for the long term? I think that is such an important starting point. That's a great starting point.
Yeah. Simon Sinek, I think, said once that he wishes there was a section in the bookstore, that said, service to others, because everything's self-help, no service to others. And I think the ReStory Foundation almost embodies that. Like, how can we help others? How can we just see eye to eye, essentially, and help others?
It's also, people often assume, it's the materially wealthy that need purpose, that that get a kick out of, transforming others. God's wired us to all have purpose, to all want to make a difference and gain the value. So how do you give everyone that opportunity? I think is so important.
It's amazing. And I mean, are there any sort of up and coming events that you have coming from the ReStory Foundation? Like, are there? I remember I played in a golf day a couple of years ago. I don't know. Is there a golf day coming up anytime soon?
There's no golf day coming. We've actually just had a huge, quite a few functions we've just had.
Okay.
And then, we've got Mandela Day, but we try and do everything differently, where it's all eye to eye. So Mandela Day and Heritage Day, we do quite a bit on that. But it's all about saying, okay, so say, for example, we had Clifton the other day came, but our children taught them Indigenous games, and they taught our children some games. So it was both ways. And then another day they went to the beach and did a cleanup together and had a picnic. So it's all about saying, okay, how do you create these relationships of equality? So in we have smaller, we love to show people our site, and kids dance, and it's a wonderful experience. How do we make it eye to eye? We might just rope the person in for a dance, and you were in our Waza, join us. So we roped just on Sunday.
I don't want to show off my dance moves, so we'll just leave that.
We'll let others show off them, but it's a wonderful thing. As we're so conscious of mental health in society today, we have just seen, we've got our maths club on a Friday. We have kids from advantaged schools. There's some that come and they won't miss it for anything. There's like a waiting list, but a lot is for their own mental health and what it's done to them, and the joy of giving, the joy of being in that environment. It's great.
And I read somewhere that you're quite the poet, or you're quite the writer. Did you write a poem or an essay on "We Have a Dream" once?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And what is your favorite sort of quote out of that Is it a poem? I haven't found it yet.
It's a poem.
A poem, okay.
It relates to the eye to eye. We have a dream of honor where no one is seen as less than. We all give and receive and are blessed. And so it's just that, everyone gives and receives. And if we can get that right in South Africa, I mean, what a blessing, where we're all looking to empower each other.
Yeah, so, Mandy, we've probably covered some of this, but what would you say is one leadership lesson or life lesson that you would impart to the younger generation?
So I think one thing that I've really learned, and I'm still learning, is the whole thing of power. People hear the word power and they run away. But positive power is such a great thing. Power with people and power to serve. And I think if we can get that right, that is really phenomenal. In terms of serving others, our saying that I mentioned earlier, be a hero by making someone else a hero. If we can do that and lift others up, that for me is powerful. So how can we do that along our journey?
Sure.
And that's where we'll really build our nation.
Yeah. And I mean, you speak such awesomeness. I don't think it's a word in the Oxford Dictionary, but awesomeness like that for me describes you. Did you have any strong mentors growing up, like in sort of, I mean, you just seem like such a strong person. So the mentorship thing is really part of the whole ReStory Foundation as well. How important are mentors, and did you have any that sort of stand out?
Yeah. So, I mean, I talk about books first because I enjoy reading. Yeah. So there've been some great books. Jai Kumar Christian wrote, actually. I'd been thinking about this power thing, developed it. Then I read this book that was written about 8 years before, and it was all talking about this power. It was most put out because it's like, I thought I was developing this for the first time. And it was like, it's all been said before. And he writes, some amazing stuff. But people like, also in terms of the reading and that, Martin Luther King Jr., where he talks about like going to protest. If people didn't have love in their hearts towards who they were going to protest against, they must stay at home. Yeah. And that really, really challenged me in terms of how we do everything with love, and we transform how we do things. In terms of in the flesh, actually I was on a plane last night on the way back from Cape Town. The person sitting next to me, she was actually watching what I was pottering on my computer, and she started asking me questions, and she mentioned Judy Tate, who was principal at Ananda Seminary for many years, now runs a teacher training under the Ananda banner, and she just said how her words rang true with her. And I've met so many people. So Judy Tate sat on our board for a while, and just one of those people that always looks to give. And for me, that was just, I'm an A-type personality, so I've got a bit of an achiever there. I've worked to like lay it down. But here's one who just says, how can I give in this situation? And that's challenging. Sure. And I think one more I'd add. So a lot of my staff, they actually are heroes and mentors for me in their own way. One of them, Snare MDV, she was orphaned. Well, her mom passed away when she was 12, so she had to raise her three younger siblings. And just the kind of person she is, she found a couple of years ago, she discovered her father, so she's late 30s, discovered her father who was never there. They went without food. They had awful circumstances. But just her example of forgiveness and the example of how she embraces every person, regardless of what they've done, is such a testimony. And so she, for me, in her life, really embodies the how of living the way where we want to that honor.
Sure. No, that is really powerful stuff. I've certainly learned a couple of things today, just from I just love that service, and seeing eye to eye. I think we all personally hate it when people look down on us and make us feel inferior. And to have a foundation and a charity that actually embodies that, and embodies the eye to eye and the same level and service is phenomenal. So really well done, and congratulations on the foundation's 17 years. I mean, that's phenomenal. So if someone's listening to this on Spotify or seeing a short on Instagram, and they say, I actually want to get involved with the ReStory Foundation, how can people get involved?
So I think, first you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, find out more, because I'm only giving a little snippet of what there is. But in terms of getting involved, there are so many ways to get involved. I think the best is to contact us, because we have things like Maths and Literacy Club, all that. We also have sponsorship programs. more than 50% increase in children the last year, and we're really needing sponsors. So we have those hope sponsors are those that get a bit more involved relationally and have individual child, and then there are those empower a child where it's financial, because some people are just so busy. They want to invest in somewhere that is making a difference. They just don't have the capacity themselves. And so it can be anything. I mean, even from 50 Rand upwards, but just committing to that, sponsoring a child just makes a difference. And then, I mean, businesses, they have to pay ECD, compulsory spend. And so it's a wonderful opportunity where we partner with the business and saying, okay, how can this be a benefit to your staff as well, so they can see, because that really is transformational when they start seeing the impact they're having and their business is having. So we've got with our unemployed young adults, with our justice, there's so many aspects that a business might choose to get involved in and to contribute towards that.
Phenomenal. Look, we've at Araujo Attorneys, we've certainly enjoyed our partnership over the years, and love getting involved with any events that you have and with sponsorships and stuff like that. So thank you for the opportunity as well. And to everyone listening out there, really, I just want to say and encourage you to try and get involved wherever you can. Mandy's running a phenomenal ship over there, and transparent and with integrity, and that's what I really, really appreciate about the ReStory Foundation. So well done on that again.
Thanks,
and thanks for being on the podcast today.
Absolute pleasure.
Cool. And guys, yes, thank you so much for listening again. Please give us a like, a share, a comment. Just get us some traction on this podcast. We feel like we're growing as we're going, so some love would really be appreciated. And then one thing that I did also see on the website is also, let's see the true worth in others. And I think that is a nice way to stop. So let's see the true worth in others. Prost, until next time. Cheers.